My review of Rayman is one of my most popular next to Medieval, but despite this, I think it's time to go back and do it justice. Rayman was an iconic platform game in 1995 and to this day remains one of Ubisoft's greatest works, yet despite this I didn't give it the true credit it deserved, but instead I moaned on about it despite liking a lot of the game's elements. I'd also got a lot of the information wrong, saying it was by the same team of Assassin's Creed, the Tom Clancy games, amongst others. Maybe it was just out of frustration this game caused me, but to this day I still think it was out of immaturity. I'll try and keep these re-reviews to a minimum because I'm comfortable with most of my older videos and a lot of viewers seem to be happy too. Most of the popular games like Medieval, Crash Bandicoot and Spyro will see re-reviews, but not until a later date, maybe in 2014 but no sooner. So without further ado, it's time to go back to this frustrating yet humble classic. I'm the Greasy Gamer, your number one source for number 2 games. Rayman was the 49th PlayStation title and also one of the few which received a platinum label not long after its release. Its popularity came from simple yet effective gameplay, its wondrous soundtrack and breathtaking visuals. In fact, the art style and music is probably the best thing about this game. The game's story is rather brief, and no, I won't make any remarks about Ubisoft being racist this time round. Mr. Dark, the game's antagonist, has stolen all the Electoons, which make the land lush and vibrant. When they were taken, everything went to hell in a handbasket. The character of Rayman is quite different to others of his time because for one thing he has no arms, legs or neck. How Ubisoft managed to make a character as weird and wonderful as this, I've no idea. It can't be coincidence that the concept of Rayman was ripped out of the Super NES game Plock, whose protagonist also had no arms and legs. However, in Plock, the title character could use his feet for attacks, whereas Rayman only uses his fists. As Rayman, your mission is not just to reach the end of each level, but also to find the Electoons hidden throughout the stages. This is one of the first platform games to utilise backtracking, because some Electoons can't be freed without particular upgrades. Power-ups in the game are a very common sight, but aren't nearly as fun to use as things like swinging or helicopter hair. Rayman can improve his punching damage through the numerous pickups found lying around, and can heal by finding these red blobs. The larger blobs with the letter P inside can increase Rayman's maximum health temporarily. There's also these pearls called tings that you can collect throughout the stages, and getting 100 grants you an extra life. Doing this is easier said than done because if you die, you lose all of them and have to start over. At least they return after death though, so thank Ubisoft for small mercies. You can pick up extra lives, but I seriously don't recommend you do because they never respawn, so I leave them for emergencies. You can die in fairly simple ways, be it get hit too many times or fall off the edge of the TV screen. So the best way to get extra lives was by going to easier levels and collecting tings. But the thing is that I spent most of my time in Rayman doing this, and by the time I had enough lives, I just wanted to play something else, you know, a better game like Bubsy 3D! But take a look at Rayman Origins, a game that I gave flack to for no good reason. It doesn't have a live system and it's still quite a challenging game, especially on later stages. Add to that there's very few health pickups in each level, so care is required. You'll probably disagree, but Rayman is one of the hardest games I've ever had to play. As a kid, I wasn't very good at games to begin with, and I only recall beating 2 PS1 games, Monsters Inc. and Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer, so you'd think as an adult I'd be able to beat these stages, right? The worst part is that I still get as frustrated as when I was around 7 years old trying to beat this game. The furthest I get nowadays is the stone levels, and the Electoons on the music levels elude me to this day, and it's just because of silly things that we thankfully got rid of today. Most of the game's difficulty comes from the control in 2 ways. One is that it doesn't support DualShock, which, okay, I'll let it off. DualShock wasn't around until later in the PS1's life, and this game was one of the console's first titles. The second reason is the stiff control. Now, it wouldn't matter if this game uses the D-pad or the analog sticks because it feels so rusty, for desperate want of a better word. Maybe it's because my poor blood circulation has frozen the pad and thus Rayman's movement, but this is unacceptable. It also doesn't help that Rayman doesn't move very fast either, just at a semi-brisk pace. You take any other platform game, especially Sonic the Hedgehog, and you'll see that faster movement is often fluent and feels so much more fun. When I can walk faster in real life than our hero, things are pretty bad. But then you've got silly little things like being knocked back when you get hit by enemies. This happens so much on the NES, and you'd think by now we would have eradicated such a cheap way of killing players. You will get knocked into hazards and off the edge of the screen more times than you care to know. But the worst part is that the game gets a whole lot more fun once you've gotten past the stages I'm stuck on. No kidding, everything you get later on makes getting the Electoons from the previous and later levels so much more easier as well as enjoyable. It's a great reward for patience and strategy, something I experience so little in games nowadays. The upgrades are one of the best features of the game, involving hanging from ledges, swinging, and even using your hair as helicopter rotors. If you're not patient with the game, you'll find it hard to get them, but when you do, they're rewarding and make things so much more fun. Where Rayman gets points for obscurity and weirdness is the enemy design. I think the best example of scraping the bottom of the toilet bowl are in the music levels, where for some reason you got snare drums with flippers and goggles, bongos with eyes that shoot lightning, these fucking things, and the cymbals. How I hate the cymbals! The boss battles are brilliant, and while nothing particularly new, one can't deny that they have some great soundtracks. Just listen to this. The strategies for them are quite good, especially with the final fight with Mr. Dark. He reverses your control for a short time, so it takes some getting used to, but it's not impossible. I think the one thing everyone remembers about Rayman is the visuals. Everything, and I mean everything, looks gorgeous. The worlds, the map screen, the characters, the bosses, the collectibles, and even Bertella's a hottie. I mean, can we cut that out? The animation is very smooth, and I'd hazard a guess the game runs at 40 to 60 frames a second. If so, that's pretty impressive for a game this old and minimalistic, as well as one that has such attention to detail in the environment and character design. The soundtrack is enchanting and is like no other except maybe for something like Lomax. I never thought I'd make that reference, but perhaps one day I might review it. The boss battle music is dramatic as anything I've ever heard in the game, and the songs during standard stages are soothing, which is in stark contrast to how difficult the game can be at times. That appears to be everything covered, and I'm kind of glad that I've re-reviewed this game because it's given me an open mind about the franchise and Ubisoft's goals with the rest of the series. Perhaps I will review the other games from Revolution to Legends, and that does include Rayman Raving Rabbits. So until the next time, I'm the Greasy Gaming #1 source for #2 games. Ta for now.